All right. High 2 plus 4 times 5. Maybe I gotta turn that down a bit. But, hello. Yes, there. Cool audio. Hi Greg. Hi Vic. So, this is Write Once, Read Many. We're doing chapters 11.3 and 11.4. I've got it set to live chat, but somebody do a swear check so that I know that I can see all the best the chats, you know. Hi Vale. As the audience participation balls. Thank you, Vic. Oh fuck shit damn by Greg, you know. We're getting some good ones in there to make sure it works. The audience participation question for this week, as a reminder, is the for 11.3, discuss the writing in the section of 11.3 where Skitter is fighting entirely remotely while lounging in her lair. And we can see here, this is kind of from the end of the... Oops. Whoops. We can see here that this is the... Oh no, Vale, I don't know if you're joking that yours was too harsh or and that you didn't send one, or if it actually got caught up in the filter, but I don't see whatever your message was. And I mean, if 2 plus 4 times 5 put swears, they didn't send through. Oh, let me see this. Yeah, it was caught up by the filter. See, this is why I did the swear check this time. I do have it on live chat, but somehow it's still... My profile settings must be all messed up or something, but, you know, let's see, community moderation? I don't know. I wonder if there's a way that Greg can, like, approve the messages, but Greg. Vale was straight up slurring. Well, I don't know. I guess whatever is happening, it's gonna eat some dialogue. So that kind of sucks, but either way. Moving on to the themes. We can at least say fucking stuff and get that through. There's compartmentalization. I dismissed that line of thinking and gathered the swarm into a vaguely humanoid shape. Just whenever she's just like, no, I'm not going to think about that. Then I'm like, perfect. 2 plus 4 times 5 says, I have my iOS YouTube app set to all messages, and I at least see Sigma Jargon's curses. See, I saw Sigma Jargon's curses, and of course Vic's vaunted balls curse, which I don't think would get swept up because of the... I mean, it's just kind of a normal enough word, and Z at the end of it. Those little grabbers are pretty stupid. But I couldn't tell if the other people were just memeing that they messaged it or what. But regardless, I'll try to figure that out later. Maybe do a test stream with somebody at not the regular stream time. And then another theme I had was the continuing reverberating consequences from different stuff, like the Leviathan attack. And for this I pulled, they said it could be toxic mold exposure. The moisture always being cold and damp, and not having enough to eat, being in that basement with the foundation possibly cracked, or the mold disturbed by the vibrations and damage in the attack. Yeah, I mean, I thought that was a pretty good, like, unforeseen consequence of the Leviathan attack. There's all the obvious destruction, and then all of the consequences that you maybe wouldn't think about on first blush. Vale says, now I'm scared if other messages I type don't go through. I wasn't memeing. I don't know. I guess if I don't respond to it, probably I didn't see it. Or if something's totally off topic from somebody who hasn't read Worm, sometimes I don't read those either, but that's a little different. But yeah, I think that these continuing reverberating consequences and compartmentalization are shown pretty heavily throughout. She'll like go from thinking about the tea to thinking about smiting merchants and like just not a big deal, switching from one to the other. But for 11.3, we start this chapter a while later from 11.2, with Taylor mask off in her lair with a fresh cup of tea in her hands. My attention swept over my territory. She's alone in a dark room, but she's also everywhere in a 3-block radius around her, always tracking everyone's movements. Typical teenage girl stuff, you know. But even having a small amount of her territory left unmonitored around the edges of her power leaves her feeling anxious. I was craving one of those moments when my power would go into overdrive and increase its range. She thinks about how she's not putting enough bugs to bother anyone, which maybe she's not a good judge of that. Just the right amount to track them and get to know them while she's sitting there and just watching what everyone's doing, unmoving. 2 groups of merchants head into her territory at about the same time. She notes that it's a group of 8 people and a group of 24. Once they cross the metaphorical red line, a swarm of bugs sweep over them to feel out the situation. They must feel with their gross bug hands to learn. After a brief scare, the merchants move on as they're not being attacked directly by the bugs. These guys are reasonably well armed with a bunch of guns. The merchants were responding to my bid for control. Good. The tea heat motif continues. I sipped my tea and found it was lukewarm. I took big gulps in hopes of finishing it before it got cold. No longer feeling the warm tea of safety, Skitter takes big gulps to try and down it while it's still acceptable. The gulps being coordinated fear tactic attacks against the merchants, of course. One of the ones in the small group fires a gun into the air and is yelling down the street. Skitter still can't tell what people are saying when she's listening with bugs, but she's trying to learn. That group starts to split up into a few different directions, and they all start trying to get into different barricaded buildings. So Skitter decides the moment to strike is right. Being self-critical for a moment, she thinks about her current line of attack and reasoning, and says it reminds her of Bakuda. Well, that was disquieting, she thinks to herself. She's able to reason that she's doing this to protect people, so it's fine. Skitter makes some cute little swarm clones and moves one slowly toward the people who are trying to get into the building. And when one of them notices and yells to the others, Merchant swings a bat through the head of the swarm clone, and the rest of it collapses onto him. Some of the others laugh, and some of them try to claw away the bugs. But she starts biting anyone who tries to get close with the swarm that they're swiping away. And so they all start to move away, at which point she forms kind of a ring around them of these swarm clones. Then I waited, keeping the swarm figures remaining as motionless as possible. If it weren't for the man still thrashing on the ground, screaming, it would have been eerily still and quiet. Taking a moment to set our attention back on the second group while that guy screams. There's a woman who's singing, like Omar style, to announce her presence down the street, and she's got a gas tank and matches. But even so, Skitter lets them continue moving until they start to do something. I think she wants to really set up a crushing psychological defeat at just the right moment. She talked about watching those alternate universe Star Wars movies, but she never mentioned that they were way more focused on Mace Windu doing shatter points on people. Um, as soon as the standoff is broken with the first group, someone tries to run. Skitter starts to pick them off, and the first guy running gets swamped, which makes the others all panic and run. One woman tries to use a dude as a decoy and pushes him into a swarm, like it would like aggro onto him and ignore her, but it just gets both of them. Then there are 4 left. 3 of them all run in different directions and get overtaken. And the last one is, he's freaking out, he's looking for a way out, and Skitter pretends to make an exit, because she's generous like that, merciful even. She shows him clemency, and so he starts to run, but then she actually hurts him into an alleyway, and realizing he's trapped, it says, he screamed, a primal, despairing sound. So, she's a real nice customer, this Taylor. Vale says, Taylor is so creepy sometimes. Many times, I suppose, but this time for sure. Yep. Skitter takes her time. She moves them in for the last attack at what she describes as a glacial pace, while building the swarm in numbers. Group 1 down. I finished my tea, then made a face. The tea bag had leaked grit, and some had settled into the bottom of my cup. Bitter. Or read, more simply to continue the motif, I finished my tea, then made a face. Bitter. Yeah. As Skitter turns her attention to the group, we get a scene transition point, which is putting us back to the point where 11.2 had ended, where she was talking to Sierra and the mercenaries were there. Without thinking about it, Skitter agrees to help this girl find her younger brother. Sierra looks surprised, and Skitter's taken aback by Sierra's reaction. So it's a surprise and shock at shock, reactions to reactions. But then she thinks about the very real possibility that Sierra thinks she'll want something in return. Then she takes a moment to consider if she should indeed be demanding something in return. Stay here. I'll be right back. Vale says, bitter was such a perfect line. The dregs of the tea arguably taking more of her attention than fighting across her territory. It's just so good. Tea, not team. Yeah. The dregs of her tea, yeah. I think, to me, it's also just more, it's not even, it works on that level that she's more focused on the tea, but it also is just like the tea motif is herself being okay with being a villain than actually having to hurt a bunch of people and kind of feeling bad about it, but not bad enough to admit to herself that she feels bad about it, kind of thing. But I don't know. That's just how I read it. As Skitter turns her attention... stay here, I'll be right back. And then Skitter goes to Coil's people and sends them away, tells them they did a good job, and they can pass that along to Coil. She tells them about the extra supplies that she's going to need delivered within the next day. And after they leave, it's just Skitter and Sierra, who says her name when asked. Skitter starts to walk and talk. It's like a Sorkin scene. But then Sierra starts unleashing her backstory on Skitter. Her parents' house that she had lived in got demolished in the Leviathan attack. Sierra is again shocked by Skitter's behavior of basic kindness and is just too sleep-deprived to play anything cool. Skitter wonders what people must think of her to get like that level of shock from Sierra for just expressing minor solidarity about her house being destroyed. Sierra goes on to tell us about how she was working in a cleanup crew until word got around that the crews were getting attacked, and because the women were being assaulted in the attacks, her parents had switched her to working in the shelters. Her uncle had gotten sick and then died suddenly, her uncle who had been staying with them. They later realized that there was mold where they were staying, but by the time they knew, her parents were sick with mold poisoning, and her brother was starting to show symptoms as well. As her parents and her brother Bryce were hospitalized, she went to stay with someone she knew from working at the shelter. And they were staying at a church, and Bryce was discharged from the hospital, so he joined them there. Only a few days after he had joined them, the church was attacked by a group of 9 or 10 merchants who had opened the fight by throwing a Molotov cocktail through a window. So Sierra had spent her time in the fight with an extinguisher managing the fire and had lost track of what was happening. But she saw one of the men grab her brother and sort of tried to distract him with the fire extinguisher, which didn't work. And then in the heat of the moment, she had to escape through the window. When she got back an hour later, Bryce was missing. And then the guy who had given her the room to stay in had been like grievously wounded by the merchants. Possible permanent loss of mobility and a need for a colostomy bag. So pretty rough stuff. Sierra kind of loses the momentum of her story in the moment, and she's having a hard time expressing herself about how much she hates these guys. Skitter urges her to go on now, so she's a little all over the place, but says that she's considered herself a pacifist, so it really means something when she says that she wants Skitter to hurt them. Hurt them as much as Skitter thinks they deserve, and then to double it, triple it. Taylor flounders a bit in the situation for a moment, and then she's not feeling very Skitter, and questioning what's expected from her, but then I put a hand on her shoulder, and she flinched. I left the hand there, and I measured out my words. Trust me when I say, I have that handled. So she's trying to be a badass. I think it mostly works. She pulls it off because she's a real creep, so she can back it up. You know. Let's see here. Skitter tries to get more information. There are details, but they're not super important, like for this summary. Sierra gives Skitter a picture of Bryce, and she says that she checked all the places she thinks he might hide out in and hasn't found him. It's been 2 days, and she can kind of describe the people who took him. Medium vagueness. Skitter will probably be able to tell who they are if they're in a group together. There's this wristband thing that they bring up now that we'll talk about more later, where it's like some sort of status symbol maybe for the merchants. Sierra doesn't have anywhere to stay, so Skitter kind of pushes the issue and makes her come with her to the hideout. They go through the secret entrance, through the storm drains that she mentioned when she went out for her run. Sierra's a bit awed at the fact that Skitter has electricity and running water. And then when she offers some tea, Sierra accepts it, saying that it's all strangely domestic for a villain. The only seating that Skitter has right now is the beds in the dormitory, and by the time that she's got the tea ready, Sierra's already fallen asleep, which we can see here. So this is the scene of Skitter walking the tea in to bring it to Sierra. And it's pretty cute. It's a good drawing. I like it. We'll be seeing a little more of the dormitory, but I don't know that we'll necessarily get another drawing that's a scene here. I could imagine it maybe, but we try to kind of tread new ground as much as we can. Oh, 2 + 4 × 5's got to leave, starting his shift in a minute. See you next time, and I'm sure we'll see the comments of your odd experience with the stream later. So, bye. Yes, so yeah, Skitter goes upstairs and things sort of loop back to where the chapter began. We're at the first segment again, but then we flash forward to a few moments after the previous scene transition. So kind of back in the present, Skitter makes a few tries with a beetle, and eventually she successfully lights a match with her bug, touching the flame to other matches. She doesn't need to strike them anymore. Some of the bugs die to self-immolation or drying out. Typical stuff. But the disturbing little mob marches toward the woman who had been at the lead of the second group, with the gasoline now spilled on her shoes and legs. She tries to both escape and take off her fuel-soaked clothes at the same time, succeeding in falling over. I could picture it. It would be intimidating. A sea of bugs, acting with a backing of human intelligence, each with their tiny torches. It's pretty good imagery. So, they light her on fire a bit, and then even as she starts screaming, no one rushes over to help her at first, and then the woman gets into some shallow water, and one of the other people finally runs over, and he pulls her to some deeper water 10 feet down the road to start to try and put out the flames. Skitter decides to let him help her and doesn't accost them while they're putting out the fire. She doesn't want her to get too bad, just a little burning. As a treat. A little burning is a treat. Apparently, seeing the woman get set on fire by the swarm had done its job in unnerving my enemies. Skitter does the same thing to this much larger group that she did to the other one, minus the ring penning them in. After letting them scatter, she takes them all down with swarm clones. Human shapes were less efficient than a regular swarm, but I imagine the psychological effect was that much greater. A swarm of bugs was something you could encounter any day. An uncannily human figure that you couldn't hurt with any conventional weapon, who threatened incredible pain if it got close. It was something my enemies would remember, and it was something they could tell others about. Regular bug swarms are a dime a dozen, she says. So Skitter texts Goyle about the attack and mentions that they might need a medic? ? Then she calls Lisa on the phone. Hey, Boardwalk Empress. Tattletale is laying low for right now and scoping things out, coordinating. She saw Skitter's big cloud of bugs earlier in the day, and Tattletale thinks that Skitter's making faster progress than the rest of them. Skitter says she thinks this is a good thing, and Tattletale says she's here to help. So Skitter says she's calling because she does need help finding someone. She drops some deets, and Tattletale says she knows a bit about the wristbands. They discuss territories and who's been fighting who for a bit. Then Tattletale invites Skitter to come over with her tonight to infiltrate a merchant's event. She's sending Gru or Imp to cover Skitter's territory tonight because they're already kind of winding down from attacking into other places. And then, let's see here. So I guess that's kind of the end of that chapter. My final chapter thoughts are mostly that I didn't have like a lot to say on this chapter. I mean, I do like it. It's another good one. I was listening to the audiobook, and when the scene transitions happen, he says in this chapter, Part 2 and Part 3. It felt very like old school book on tape, and I like that. I wouldn't want it to be in all the chapters, but I thought it was charming here. Also, when she had all the dudes, the swarm clones standing around, I couldn't stop thinking of the guy made of bees from Kingdom of Loathing. And that made me laugh in my head. So yeah. So 11.4. Skitter thinks about the different hideouts that she'd seen, her own, Bitches, and the Imp Guru base, as a way to contrast that they're all hidden in some way, and Tattletale's base is just a publicly known shelter, where Lisa works in her civilian identity, in one of the highest traffic areas of the city. It's situated near Lord Street, and it's kind of like two buildings. There's a messed up gas station that they'll be able to use later, but right now its parking lot is full with cars that have been pulled off the street, and it's going to need a lot of work before it's ready to be used for anything. Then there's like a central building with a little tent city around it that is the main shelter itself. Per Tattletale, Taylor is showing up without wearing any skidder gear to try and fly under the radar. She's already washed her hair today, so she couldn't quite look as grungy as Lisa had wanted for their ruse. But she's ready in other ways. She's got her knife hidden away and able to, swing out and caca at people if she needs to. Oops. Let's see here. Boop, boop, boop. When is the chapter transition coming? It's right up. Okay, so I'm going to start the chapter art speed draw because it's basically about to happen. Let's see here. Musing for a moment on the loosened ideas of what's an acceptable level of being armed, given that the city's in the state it's in, she moves inside the building and sees signs on the wall that give a bit of texture. I'll talk about those a bit in the world building section. An overworked-looking staff member is able to direct Taylor to Lisa. As she moves past different people, she sees that a lot of them look like they're in bad health condition and like they're not able to live hygienically. Lisa's talking to an older woman who's reporting that people have moved into her house while she was away from it, and she hasn't been able to go back there since. It's been about 4 days, and there are always people there. So while this is happening, Taylor's examining Lisa's map, which she marks during the accounting to increase the size of the merchant's territory. She notes while looking at it that Tattletale doesn't have a territory on the map and has expanded all the other areas to cover for her missing spot in the middle. Lisa greets Taylor in a good-natured way, like she doesn't know her. Lost and found? Want to check how your neighborhood's doing? If you're looking for someone, you can leave a photo. Every night I'll be taking digital photos and sending them to the other shelters. I resisted the urge to roll my eyes. So Lisa has someone take over for her, and they go into another room. Taylor mentions being surprised that Lisa isn't running the place, to which Lisa, of course, states that it would be too obvious. Then she smiles and throws an arm around Taylor, expounding that that it lets her be right in the middle of things. Taylor compliments the setup, and then Lisa shows her a much more impressive setup that she's actually got like a secret little hacker room with 8 computer terminals and 6 people all loaded in there. There's files and stuff. Taylor's like, impressive. Let's switch to the final version. Oh man, did the thing again. Boop. So I really like this image. I think it's great. It's got all we could want. Lisa, the map, and I mean, I think that's a pretty accurate map of Brockton Bay. I think that's the one they have on the website, essentially, like translated into being a more far away picture. So. Pretty cool. Oh, Vale says, by the way, related to the previous art, the tea and beds, I don't know why I had visualized it like a regular home bedroom with a king mattress or something. The bunk beds actually make sense. Yeah. It's like a bunker dormitory. It's like where they sleep in the meal. Anyway, so Lisa says she's got everything from hard data to gossip and word of mouth, but she's been taking in too much info. She's been getting thinker headaches, and she says she wants to get some fresh air, give her power a rest. Taylor quips about the air not being fresh where they're going, and when Lisa hears this, she hand waves it as being just a saying. Although on another level, I think that she'll intake so much data while she's there that the metaphorical fresh air will not work either. And that's kind of inherent to the fact that they're doing a recon mission. Taylor tells her she doesn't feel comfortable without her stuff. Her armor, stab-proof, etc. Lisa assures her that this is only recon and that they'll have escorts, so it'll be okay. Val says, a visit to merchant territory sounds super relaxing. Yeah. Taylor asks about the escorts. Lisa calls someone on her cell phone. Minor, I want you, Senegal, Jaw, and Brooks in my office. Civvies. I know you'd rather have Brian come with, but he's got his own thing going on, you know? Oh, no, I'm okay that he isn't coming. Things are bad between us. I totally didn't know you'd confess to him, you know? I saw that awkwardness between you two and the distance, but I assumed it was because you'd used him as a shoulder to cry on. My power filled in those blanks all wrong. Yep, confessed. Not sure what sucked more. Him saying he thought of me in the same terms as he thought of Aisha? That he considered me a friend, knowing that I'd fucked said friendship up? Or him implying that he'd only been nice to me because he pitied me? I'm gonna kick his ass for being that. Taylor tells Lisa not to interfere and sort of cuts off the scene. Lisa's trying to reassure Taylor and be a good friend, but then she's like instantly interrupted by a knock at the door. Then she tells Taylor they'll get back to talking about this later. I think that scene's super good. I of course cut out all the he saids or all the she saids, but I hope by the voices you could tell who was who. Anyway, so 4 men walk into the room, 3 big dudes and a small guy, all soldiers that Coyle had sent to work for Tattletale. Lisa points them out in turn. Minor is the team captain, Brooks is the medic, almost no description on Jaw or Senegal. Brooks has some weird accent, but I'm not really sure what's being implied by the text here, so feel free to let me know in the chat or the comments or whatever. Lisa sets them into couples among the 6 of them, and when it's clear that Brooks is supposed to be a couple with Jaw, he gets all mad and Jaw starts laughing about it. Vale says, I just watched Kaguya Love is War anime. Every time you say the word confess, it stands out and makes me think of a dozen scenes from that series. Yeah, I've seen a couple of episodes of that. It's pretty crazy. I think it's a pretty funny show from the couple ones that I'd seen. How they're like, I can't be the one to confess. I'll lose all the power in the relationship. Yeah, it's pretty funny and stupid. So Minor shuts things down when Brooks starts talking back to Lisa. She's the boss, after all. Lisa explains that she wanted to bring 4 guys so that people like the merchants would see them as a stronger group. Lisa gets out some close enough fakes of the wristbands that the merchants use so that they'll blend in better as they go to the event. As they walk out, Lisa gives a mock salute to the person who nominally runs the shelter, who she's leaving in charge. When they're about a block away, Senegal starts trying to make a move on Taylor and puts his arm around her, pulling her closer. Taylor's like, I can see right through this guy. And then in the actual text, just like bitch, the animal at Senegal's core was vicious. The difference was that he was much better at pretending to be normal, and his animal wasn't angry. It was hungry. He's like a grody dude. He's in his 30s, and he's trying to get with Taylor, who is like, burgeoning on 16, but very much a young teen girl. Let's see here. She tells him, hands off, and he tries to make excuses and isn't letting go for a second, and then Lisa says to knock it off, and at this point he does back off, doing the whole like innocent thing. Coyle's guys were supposedly all ex-military. My gut was telling me that Senegal hadn't finished his tour, or whatever the terminology was. Ovale says, now that particular word has the same mental weight of, as if I heard a gunshot discharge outside my window. So it was funny, but I was slightly traumatized from laughing. Yeah, you can't have someone confess. It's, and I keep saying it as though firing the gun in the air. The Chekhov's confession. Lisa has the others walk ahead so that she can talk to Taylor. Brooks starts to complain that Taylor's even here at all, and says, far as I can tell, she's dead weight. See, that's my version of Brooks's voice, since they don't really describe it that much. Lisa brushes him off when he starts to and I mean, we all know how amazing at voices I am. Uh, when he starts to complain, Minor steps in again and backs up Lisa. Taylor comments on the state of things between Lisa and the mercenaries, and Lisa says she would have moved faster with her territory if she wasn't dealing with this internal stuff. Taylor asks why she got stuck with Senegal, and Lisa explains some of the team dynamics. Not wanting Senegal and Brooks to be together, needing to build her own rapport with Minor, and then Lisa has two other people that are under her, but Dimitri's the only one who can run the shelter aside from Minor, and then Lisa didn't want Prit for the previously stated reason of, like, wanting to boost their ratio. Less likely to be a target of attack when they get to the merchant thing. Vale says, Ack. Brooks obviously has a Newfoundland accent. Yeah, that's why Taylor can't identify it. Later she's going to be like, oh, I talked to Dragon and I could tell in 1 second. She was a Newfie. I didn't even have to think about it. Taylor says to Lisa, I don't like showing weakness to a person like that. Appending to the end in italicized thought, to a bully. I guess I'm going to add that to my themes, just because every time it gets mentioned, bullying. Bully. If I could type. And then Lisa asks her to play along for tonight, then asks about Taylor's territory grab. Taylor goes into detail about the different things she did, the merchants who stabbed her ineffectually, the interaction with Battery, and then dealing with the two groups in the previous chapter from within her lair. She mentions the issue about her range not extending to the edge of her territory. It bugs me. It bugs her? Vix is saying, I feel like Lisa could have figured this out better, but she doesn't like admitting she makes mistakes. Yeah. She obviously just wanted to emasculate Brooks. I agree. I think that there's some way she could have... I think she could have shuffled people around differently. Let me think. On the spot, I would say have Senegal with her to manage him more. She's already got good rapport with Minor. I mean, I can see she wants to build more, but it's kind of whatever. Put Minor and Brooks as a couple. Have Jaw with Taylor. That's what I would have done. I think it would have even looked better as a group entering the merchants. Would have, like, kind of matched up a little better. But because, you know, I don't know why, but I think of the Jaw Taylor, like, big dude teenage girl age gap would look even more conspicuous, and like they're trying to look conspicuous. But yeah. And then classic example of Tattletale being homophobic. Worst ally. Yeah, she's a terrible ally. Stuff with Circus, stuff from Ward. Oh, Tattletale. But let's see here. So Lisa says that she remembers Taylor mentioning getting extended range, but was distracted at the time. That was, of course, when she was about to head into a Bakuda bomb storage facility. She says that she thinks she knows a bit about why. As far as she knows, powers become stronger when the user is closer to the mental state they were in when they got their powers. After describing this a bit more and saying that it's hard to leverage because of Taylor's powers coming from hopelessness and frustration, Taylor thinks to herself, fuck, it fit, more or less. But then Lisa mentions that this might have been giving parahumans a Pavlovian-style reaction that leads them to seek out situations to get them closer to the mindset where they got their trigger event, to get that power boost. Gotta get that power. without realizing that they're doing this, they sort of seek out that, and this was alluded to in the previous chapter. Taylor asks what the good news portion of this is, and Lisa says that it's like a defense mechanism. If things get really bad, they get stronger powers, which might help them get out of a pinch. So Taylor asks about Lisa mentioning that she's felt this with her own power. Lisa hesitates and Taylor aborts. I don't want to press. Another time, I don't want to get into a bad headspace just before we do this thing tonight. That's fine. Really, you don't have to say. I said no more secrets, didn't I? Just give me time to figure out how to explain. Of course. She gave me a one-armed hug. So before they get to where they're going, Taylor realizes their destination. It's the Weymouth Shopping Center, from when she punched, Emma in Arc 5. But she's still shocked when she gets there and they hear this terrible cacophony of all different types of overlapping music. And they see hundreds of merchants. And then all gathered together for one grand debauch festival. Half of the merchants I could see wore a fresh band around their wrist, or hanging from their clothing like badges of honor. Yellow bands were for a test of courage, black for near-death experience. The red ones they're handing out at the door. Blood? Bloodshed, yeah. Something ugly's going to happen tonight. And that's the chapter end. Vale says, interesting theory, but I'd rather things not be really bad, so I didn't need an arbitrary extra bit of power to maybe survive. Just me. I mean, sometimes, you're not even really thinking about it. You're just like, need that power. Eat it up. So, anyway, final chapter thoughts about this one. Another good one. We got some introduction of some characters we'll see for the rest of the arc, and a couple of the mercenaries we'll see regularly throughout the next several arcs, I think. So, a few important character setups. We get the sort of idea of what's going to happen in the next few chapters. The whole destroy the merchant gathering thing. And I mean, they say it's recon, but is it ever really just recon with these people? Vale says, I agree with the theory, but my preferences would be to avoid those situations rather than seek them out, is all I'm saying. And that's why you're not a parahuman, Vale. I would definitely seek out the situations. I wouldn't even need to know about them. I'm just an idiot. Greg says, as a wise man once said, power! Unlimited power! And this is, of course, our boy, Sheev Palpatine. But anyway. So, yeah, I don't know. Another good chapter leading up to what I think of as a pretty neat set of scenes in the next couple chapters that really, I think they kind of characterize Taylor and Lisa really well, both here and in the upcoming chapters. As far as arc stuff, it's kind of all that stuff I was just saying. It kind of a slow setup for this arc, honestly. They have this is the 4th chapter, and they're kind of still in the planning phase, and it's an 8-chapter arc. So, things start to become a mess next chapter, as you'd expect. And then this arc is, as I might have mentioned last episode, don't remember, kind of a double arc. It's basically 2 different arcs. There's the first half that's 8 chapters, then a second half that's 8 other chapters that are all interludes. So this one's gonna get a little wild. And I mean, last arc was pretty horrifying. I can think of several people I know who probably shouldn't read this book just because of last arc. But this one is kind of gets into the gross, even though it's a little more lighthearted. You're just seeing the city be all fucked up and gross. And I mean, you hear about a bunch of bad stuff. Like the merchants are like, well, I'm maybe also the chosen or just random people, but probably the merchants are attacking work crews and then like sexually assaulting people. And it's just like, wow, maybe if somehow in a few arcs these guys got massacred, maybe I wouldn't feel that bad about it. I don't know. Just maybe. Um, Vale says, Lisa, recon time. Taylor under her breath with maximum escalation. Yeah. Let's see here. Villain run gangs tend to be awful, which is why the Undersiders are definitely heroes. I don't know that the villain hero dichotomy is very like important labeling within universe, so I definitely wouldn't call them heroes, but I would want other words to talk about it, like because there's obviously more nuance to it, and the characters like Tattletale who are like villains who are essentially good, like I think that there could be like just a different name for it, and like even through Ward they never really come up with something. Like at one point a character thinks like Robin Hood style villains when they're thinking of villains who only really fight other villains to get money. um but anyway, um part of, and like I don't know, it's unclear how the Undersiders really run things later on because like we don't see it as up close because of various factors, but like I don't know. They I don't think that they're as bad as other gangs, and like obviously they're no merchants, they're no fucking Empire 88. They're none of those like terrible baddies, but they clearly do like bad things, and maybe to some regular people. So let's not let them fully off the hook. Let's see here. For the characters section, and let me get this ready. Boop boop boop. Put it over here. Characters section. I wanted to read this quote that Taylor says, and then have the mental reaction that I had. So this really reminded me of Into the Spider-Verse, that Miles Morales moment. I put a hand on her shoulder, and she flinched. I left the hand there, and I measured out my words. It just felt like Taylor was hitting on her. For like a split second. He definitely classic Morales. Yeah, Taylor's having a hard time as a newly all-in villain. You know, hurting some people, even though she doesn't like these people. She's like bitter. Yeah. Hey. I don't have any chairs. I do have beds, though. Dang it, Taylor. Are you really hitting? Thanks, Val. I mean, only cementing my points. So, yeah, she's taking this, like, kind of selfless, heroic action without thinking about it in trying to help Sierra and her brother Bryce. And then she's also like monitoring the people in her territory, which is like, it's one of those things where it's like not good, but it's clearly like good intentioned, and she is defending them from actual physical harm. It's like one of those things where like the theoretical upside of a surveillance state. Although it doesn't work out ever in real life. Surveillance states are bad. But this is like a what if scenario where Taylor's the surveillance state, and it's not a real scenario. But it's kind of interesting. And you know, she's got weird control issues. Clearly, she can't let anyone out of her sight and even not being able to like sense the very edges of her territory. She's like, but like, what if I could sense more things? What if I could have a bigger cloud of bugs? Um, so the power making her want more power is certainly working. And then yeah, her discussing her opinions on her relationship with Brian to Lisa. Um, it's interesting that, and it makes sense, like within the way this story works, that Lisa doesn't really get a chance to comfort her or address the concerns she has. So, it's like a whole thing. Um, there ain't no rest for the wicked. Then Sierra. Let's talk about Sierra for a minute. She's the young lady with the red dreads. She has a brother. He has been kidnapped, and Taylor won't stop hitting on her. She's like, this older redhead. And I'm like, I get it, Taylor, but cool it. Vic says cultural appropriation queen. Yeah. Um, and Taylor's like, well, I mean, I don't love someone unless they're really problematic, like Lisa or Brian. So she just goes right for the cultural appropriation queen. Vale says the only true test of her upper limits is to try to gather enough bugs to fill the entire 3-block radius with bugs to the point that it was just a sphere of insects for science. Yeah, I mean, we can't not do that. That'd be crazy to not do that. um, Having all the worms like dig out all the dirt, so she's just standing on a worm pile instead of a dirt pile. So it's like 3D in all directions. Anyway. Sierra's kind of cool. We'll see her a lot more, but we don't know that much about her, except that she was so tired, and the story we learned in that chapter. Bug Dome? Bug Dome? Yes, Vic, Bug Dome. And then we got Lisa. Like I said in the Taylor part a moment ago, Lisa's got a lot of great interactions here. She's juggling weird team dynamics. She's putting up this big facade. She's getting thinker headaches. She's overtaxing herself. She's building rapport. She's being playful with Taylor. She's building rapport with Taylor. I think we gotta we kind of just get the Lisa that we expect to get. But it is cool to see her have underlings now, because she can have them enact her will. They are physical component now to her power that she didn't have before. The Slaughterhouse 9, mentioned again in Lisa's little hacker war room. She's got a picture of Hatchet Face crossed off with red ink on her board of who they're up against. So they've already mentioned that they didn't have a full roster of 9, and if Hatchet Face is dead, then that's only 7. So they're doing okay. It's not gonna be 9 of them. For powers, knowledge, and world building, Taylor takes the time to work on trying to listen with her bugs, even though she's still not able to understand voices. So she's still kind of keeping at it. And I got a little quote here. Each of them had weapons of some sort, and 15 in total had guns. So Taylor's gone from seeing one gun and feeling freaked out at the sight, instead of focusing on the lung of the situation, to the point where she can handle a large group of people with guns with no hesitation. She's like, 15 guns, I'll just, bugs, remote control, no big deal. Vale says, especially if she could control the sphere well enough to make it seem to roll. Just a half a mile bug sphere rolling about, fighting half a mile. I think it's more like, so she says 800 foot, so probably 6 for the radius, 1600 foot diameter. So that's what, like boop, boop, boop. 3 to 4 of the... It's like a third... It's like, let's say it's a quarter of a mile across. To seem to make it just roll about fighting crime and solving problems. Yeah, solving problems by filling the area with bugs. It's like Dr. Bees. If you have a problem, then you should add bees. And if the problem is that you have bees, you should add yet more bees. Yes, another little quote I wanted to pull out. Like, I usually pull out these big quotes when I'm just like, I don't know how to summarize this in a better way. But it was, I gathered the swarm into a vaguely humanoid shape with a head, arms, and a torso. I tried to balance it on 2 columns like legs, but I erred in favor of dissolving that into 1 column for the lower body over risking having it fall over. A good thing the ground was mostly dry, or I would have had to, dry there, or I would have required far more bugs to maintain the shape with the lowermost critters constantly drowning or being pushed away by the motion of the water. Yeah. Classic swarm clones. And then the various signs that are put up, I wanted to just read. Priority order: sick, injured, disabled, old, very young, families. In smaller print below was the message, please be courteous and give up your places to priority individuals. And there's another one with no pets was written on a square of white cardboard in permanent marker, triple underlined. Abuse or threats directed at staff or other residents will not be tolerated. Belongings go under your cot. Excess plus mess may be removed from the area. No smoking within 30 paces of facility was printed on a professionally made sign, but the line that was scrawled beneath in permanent marker was not. There are sick people here! And then we get a description of Lisa's map. A large black and white map of the city had been stapled to the wall behind the counter where Lisa was working, colored pins making various spots on the map, and areas had been outlined and shaded in markers and highlighters. Words were written in the boundaries of these sections. Many areas were marked with yellow highlighter with the words Merchant Territory, Very Dangerous, blue marker with the words Chosen, Occupied, Avoid, or variations of such. And then, I thought that was great. We get to see that in the artwork, and I think that's really good. No pets, such a diss to Rachel. I guess. The room was small, and it was hot, with running computers that were crammed into it. 6 people were seated at different points in the room, each with their own computer. 2 more computers sat unoccupied. The walls were scattered with photos, maps, and printouts. Maps, printouts, and post-its. Black tape joined these elements together in a bizarre configuration that looked like part tree and part maze. All of our enemies were up on the wall. The Merchants, Fenrir's Chosen, the Pure, the Protectorate, New Wave, the Wards. There were pages relating to something Lisa was calling Case 53. Dragon was up there, as was Scion. The Slaughterhouse 9 were on a bulletin board, but Hatchet Face's picture was crossed out in red marker. So yeah, that's kind of that for my different pullouts for the thing, for powers, knowledge, and world building. I really think these 2 chapters continue the like having solid texture throughout of like how bad the city is, like how awful the conditions are, how many like random attacks there are. I just think they portray that really well. So yeah. And then I have no bonus this week for the audience participation. Discuss the writing in the section of 11.3 where Skitter is fighting entirely remotely while lounging in her lair. And so, Vale had said first, one of my favorite scenes in anything I have ever read, and then we got a this to be honest from Wonkith, who wrote, and that was a reaction. It is one of my go-to depictions of badass at ease. And then as a response to the Coil, is Coil actually Danny thing Vale had talked about, I remember laughing my ass off when Crixwell just threw out his casual, I wonder who this Coil is. Maybe it's actually secretly Danny, when Coil is first mentioned in the Arc 2 interlude. Yeah, that's funny. And then Vale had said to that, and I know this is kind of derailing from our audience participation, but Phil had said to that, "Oh wow, I haven't thought of Crix in ages. Is he still posting at one chapter every 6 months rate? It was the oddest live read ever. It took so long, and he was high school age to start, that it was a combination live read and watching someone grow to become an adult with the realization that the read could continue to retirement." Wonka said, "More or less the same rate, yeah. His last update was 19.4 back in May, so he's had a bigger gap than usual." I have never seen that live read, but if you want to link off to it in the general chat sometime, I would take a look at it. So, as an answer to the question, Vale says the dichotomy of Taylor in a domestic setting while doing relaxing domestic things while carrying on a conversation, and Taylor committing atrocious crimes in parallel at the exact same time is one of the more perfect visuals of exactly who she is and what her power is. In the whole book, the teabag breaking, leaving bitter leaves in the edges of the cup hold the same degree of concern for her as fighting dozens of enemies across her territory at the same time. It's such a great job to reset her into a terrifying force and a wannabe hero. Reset her from into a terrifying force from being a wannabe hero and a total villain and a young person all at the same. I think I'm just butchering this, but I get what you're saying. A bunch of different things all at the same time, and it's beautifully well written. Yes. And Vale says that they'll link it in the general, so that's good. We'll get that to check out. So yes, I agree. That's a pretty good summation. Although I do think that there is evidence of Taylor's compartmentalization not fully working, her feelings of bitterness bleeding out like the grainy tea. Greg says, taking on dozens of attackers while sipping on tea hammers in how casual this is for Taylor. It was a big mental commitment back in Arc 1. Now it's just Tuesday. We can see how far she's come, both in effective use of her power and willingness to use it violently. I especially like the moment of reflection on who she has been learning from, followed immediately by dismissing the thought when it makes her uncomfortable. And then Vale left a 100 react. Keep it 100, Greg. So yeah, I agree with that also. Let's see here. I don't think we have any other answers to that chapter question. Let's see here. For the next two chapters, I forgot to get a question ready, but I guess just for 11.6, we'll discuss Taylor's interaction with Charlotte. That's right. Just another basic one. Oh wait, 7.6. Boom. Post it in the thing so I don't forget to do it. I think that's kind of that. I'm going to start up the outro music, and then Phil says the Charlotte scene is pretty good to talk about. Good choice. Cool. Well, I'm glad that you that you like that choice, for it has been done. And Vale says, thanks as always. Have a great rest of your weekend. Take care. Thank you. The Discord link, as always, can be found in the stream description and the channel description. The music used in this episode and this arc is Suspense music, Post-apocalyptic, by CO.AG music. They do all bunch of free music on YouTube. Oh, Greg says, cheers. Hey, Sky. I know you just got home, but this is the very end of the stream. Like, this is the outro music going, so sorry. Hi and bye. The Discord, no, I already said that. The author of the work being discussed can be supported on Patreon at patreon.com/wildbow. The full text of the work is available for free online at parahumans.wordpress.com. And there is also a fan-made audiobook of the entire work at audioworm.rain-online.com. Or -online.org. Wait. You have a theory? Oh my god, I can stop the music. Let's go for the theory. We're going to abort the music temporarily, and we're not going to reread the links later. They've been read. Let's hear the worm theory. I'm gonna drink my coffee for a second while we let it cook. I feel like I could put on that weather forecast song, that McLeod song. And so I will. I think that's copyright free. Let's hope I don't get my ass struck. Weather? What's your weather forecast? Local forecast elevator. Oh. Royalty free, not copyright free, but yes, you can use it. Okay, as long as I can use it without getting totally Shrek'd. No one wants to get Shrek'd except Shrek. Sky says, okay. So I don't know how dumb this is. So Taylor, she controls bugs, right? And crabs. She says it's just Simple Minds she can control. And there was one part where her reach doubled. So she's getting stronger? What if she goes beyond Simple Minds? Humans! Sky, I like how you went from like fully saying sentences to just humans. Is that dumb? How far are you, Sky? It's not dumb. That's a good one. Oh darn it! I was hoping it would be puppies, so she and Rachel would be BFFs. Greg says, but only with Simple Minds, so flat earthers mostly. 5 or something. Yeah, it must be at least 5, because her power gets the range increase in Arc 5 for the first time when she is, after the school meeting, going with Bitch to the villain team-up to go fight the ABB. What a time to be alive, when we can discuss Worm forever. So Sky, do you have any other thoughts you want to share with us before we resume exit? I was only ending it because I didn't have anything more to say, but if there's more to be said. Man, it's always good to get somebody new reading. I'm glad you're reading, Sky. Nah, I just think Taylor will make a jump at some point to control more than just bugs and such. Alright, good prediction. We'll see how that turns out. So back from this nice fun music to this ominous music. Goodbye. Ominous music.